Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Monday over here. It's a new week. We have new opportunities. New opportunities get absolutely clapped in the cheeks right now, of which I'm ready for the clapping. And the big news is that September is right around the corner, of which I have made my thoughts, or basically the analysis based off statistics and probabilities, known in yesterday's video. So check that one out if you're a little more long-term time frame. Other than that, we're going to be focusing on the next couple weeks here on this particular video. And I did want to once again issue a quick correction to the Bybit promotion from the other day. It is $1,000 US dollar deposit into a new account, or an account that has not traded derivatives, and that awards you $1,000 in Ethereum contract position. Of course, there's a lot of fine print underneath that, but if you click it in the link in the description below, then it will be answered there. All right, sweet. So let's just jump into it right now. Let's start off right in over here. This is the one chart that we've really been harping on quite a fair bit for the past 3 weeks, and it's almost time to put it to rest. And that is the daily stochastic versus stochastic volatility chart, of which, should I explain the signal yet again? Sure, why not? So the stochastic momentum is represented by this metric right here. Stochastic volatility represented by this metric right here. The signal is this: when stochastic volatility gets extremely low, which are defined as basically, any one of these levels right here, as you can see, represented by the green vertical bars, the expansion phase from these extreme lows has led to an average move of 23.76%, done over the course of an average of about 8.5 days. Stochastic momentum also has gone the correct direction on that volatility expansion almost 90% of the time. And the first standard deviation gives us a range between about 12% to 35.5%. And what do you know? Since we got this signal, well, what has the results been? It has been officially, I believe, 11 days. Yes, it has been indeed 11 days. So we are on the upper end of that now, but still within the realm of likelihoods. And what do you know? With that move to the downside, we have seen almost a 20% move to the downside. So this signal is very likely going to be put to rest extremely soon, if not today. How would I define the end of this signal and to look for the next sort of consolidation, maybe even a bit of a bounce, and then we'll get into the other higher term time frame signals? Well, it would be this. Need to see the daily stochastic momentum pivot reversed here, which is 19,600 on CME specifically. Right now, Bitcoin on CME is about $100 above that, but it's a long day left to go. To be exact, it is 13 hours, 37 minutes, and 57 seconds right there. A lot of sevens in that one. And as you can see, if Bitcoin does close above that, then I would say that this signal, it's time to put it to rest, and it's time to look for the next thing. Of which, if this signal does get put to rest, meaning that Bitcoin does close above that region by end of today, probably time to be looking for a bit of sideways price action, maybe one more drop to the downside, but likely no significant new lows for now, and likely Bitcoin tries for at least a short-term bounce, if that gets confirmed. But moving on into the next chart over here, this is a 2-day time frame, same setup essentially. We're looking at stochastic volatility represented by this metric right here, stochastic momentum by this metric right here, obviously, and we are looking at extreme lows. And what's very interesting about this, and something that we actually have new now, is, well, we are looking at expansion. The slope of the stochastic volatility, where my cursor is currently around right now, is starting to expand. And this is the first major signal that we have that the higher term time frames are going to take over yet again. So anytime that we have seen it start to actually get a slightly different slope within this region, the signal really has been born upon that region. And then from there, what we have seen is an expansion phase leading into an average move of 39.43%, which is large. I would say that's rather large, almost double that of the prior signal that we just looked at. Average days taken to see the totality of that signal, about 3.5 weeks, or 24.5 days. Stochastic momentum also has been very accurate in getting the direction at about 87.5%, or 7 out of 8 iterations. And first standard deviation gives us some results between about 32% all the way up to about 47%. So if you don't know how to read this, basically the first standard deviation gives you what is most likely to happen, essentially. It gives you 68% of the results are likely to fall within that range right there. So that is the high probability in this case. We could go further out, obviously. We could go to 95 or 99%, but I think that just becomes like less and less reasonable to be looking at. We want to look at like the meat of the move. And in this case, we just closed another not another 4-day, but another 2-day last night. And so the new momentum pivot is 24,200, meaning that as long as Bitcoin is below there, that means that the stochastic momentum oscillator remains angled to the downside, meaning that, well, expansion to the downside in this case, or continuation to the downside, is more likely than not when we're talking about statistics. And of course, we're talking about statistics, not certainties. So if you are new to this channel, or if you've kind of been seduced by this channel recently, because we've been focusing more and more on this, and it's been dare I say quite accurate, it's not always going to be that way, because there is variance in these signals. And yeah, sometimes they fail as well. 87.5% is not the same thing as 100%, but pretty fucking good. And that's what I care about as a trader, or at least in looking at these sort of metrics for YouTube analysis in this way. So in this case, this one will confirm volatility expansion, or at least the first initial etchings of volatility expansion, not tonight, but tomorrow night upon daily closure. If the daily closure tomorrow is still below 24,200, which certainly not out of the question, but I would say at this point, rather unlikely, probability remains that the risk is to the downside still. And in this case, we can start to play around with these moves here. So this would really be happening over the next, 3.5, maybe even 4 weeks. And there's going to be some variance there. So basically into like the midpoint of September, essentially. And if we were to go with the lower end of the first standard deviation, that's about 32%. Well, where would that put us from current price action? All right, don't fucking hate the messenger in this case. I'm just saying, look, I'm just reading the statistics. That's all. 32% puts you $15,000, or about $15,000 or so. 46%, should we even talk about it right now? Puts you at $12,000. So if Bitcoin is going to break down, this would kind of be the area to be looking at. Here's the thing though, until that is fully confirmed, I would say that there is an air of Bula hopium. The hopium would be this: Bitcoin essentially kind of stutter steps around these current lows, which is quite likely actually. And then the new momentum pivot is going to be brought down significantly, hopefully below like $21,000. And then you see Bitcoin regain that by end of week. If you see something like that, that would be a really good indication that this is going to, resolve to the upside. I would say that that's a lot more hopium than I'm comfortable with talking about right now. Anyways, moving on to the next chart over here. Here's a 5-day chart. And of course, I just wanted to follow up on this. This is the 5-day hidden bearish divergence that we called out about half a month ago now. And well, we're already back down to the lows. And while at some point this will create naturally bullish divergence, this signal looks like it has more on the meat, especially with volatility on the lows like this. And no, I'm not going to bring up the 5-day chart just yet. I don't want to scare the ever-living shit out of everyone until that one has maybe one more closure in this case. But for right now, just looking at the 5-day chart, any sort of a rally to like mid $20,000, that being about 20,600, let's say, is, it's technically fair game, but it does absolutely fuck all for the charts right here. Heavily bearish below there, essentially, as far as I'm concerned. This is, your next local high and it's lower high, and we have a downtrend, so continuation likely upon volatility expansion. So yeah, moving on to the next chart over here, I did want to call out that the 5-day stochastic the 5-day stochastic momentum has officially turned to the downside on spot price action. That closure happened last night as well. Again, this is on extremely low volatility, so 21,250 is going to be the new pivot in this case, and also the weekly did as well. In fact, I think the pivot was like $21,000. New pivot is 20,900. So again, in the short term, can Bitcoin see a rally up to into like the 20,500, maybe 20,700 region? I guess possible, but if we're looking at the higher term timeframes, which are not relevant to the price action like today or tomorrow, but into like the meat of September, risk does still remain to the downside as long as these pivots are, well, lived below, let's say. Anyways, okay, so I think we've beaten that horse to death, or hopefully PETA's not watching or something like that. But now I want to go down to the lower term time frame. So we're going to go over here, going to go over to CME. A couple of things of interest for CME. So first things first, we are starting to get towards kind of extremes on full hour BBWP. It's not quite there just yet, and I would not say that this enters into a contraction phase until we see the BBWP below the moving average on it. At that point, yes, I would be looking for a nice little mean reversion play. And what do you know? We got a nice little gapola at around 20,300 to 20,400, which, could that be a bit of a bounce sometime early this week? Probably yes, somewhere around there. On top of that, we also do observe that bullish divergence is naturally forming on the full hour. There will be bullish divergence as long as, it doesn't go below about 20 on the RSI. So you're probably looking at something like this, maybe gets a quick spike up, boom, boom, and then a bit of a bouncy. Again, this is very low time frame stuff though, compared to what we were just looking at. So, be understanding of kind of where we're at right now. Going on over here into short-term time frame stochastic momentum, 12-hour stochastic momentum remains to the downside as long as Bitcoin is below 20,200. So, not that far away. Just be aware of that number. 6-hour is going to be pivoted at, 20,900, but I would imagine that number is going to massively change on the next closure. Same thing with the 4-hour here as well. It's 20,850, but getting down to extremes while volatility is starting to get rather critical. So, it's going to be difficult to keep this momentum up to the downside, I do think, over at least past like Tuesday. But when we get to the very low term timeframes, like the 3-hour, this one should be starting to pop up. Yep. Upside above 19,550 or so. Buy hourly is showing upside momentum above same number, 19,550 or so. And hourly is also going to be upside as long as Bitcoin's above 19,450 or so. So, short-term timeframes, probably a bit of an ebb and a flow here. Wouldn't be surprised to see, some like this, maybe a spike a little bit lower, so, somewhere around there is fine. And then try for a bounce maybe later today or more than likely into Tuesday. And then the question is, does the bounce reclaim any relevant level at all? Meaning, especially anything below $21,000 is just fucking not relevant. But we'll come back to that one if and when it does occur, which it will occur because Tuesday is coming tomorrow. So anyways, going back to this chart over here, this is the big one for me, obviously. What I really want to see on this is I want to see full-on confirmation coming into tomorrow's closure. That's going to really start to drive the biases for September. Until then, we can start to see some signs of hopium, but understand that hopium is hopium until confirmation happens. Until then, risk remains to the downside. Probabilistically speaking, downside is more likely after a bit of a short bounce. Other than that, I think it's time for me to be wishing you well, wishing you the best of the best. I'm actually intent on uploading another Jewel Light strategy and Jewel strategy as well. And probably not today, but maybe later this week, maybe next week, something like that. So do keep your eyes out for that. And yeah, I think with that said, much love to you all. Take care and see you hopefully soon.